Florence, Italy, a city relative since the Middle Ages, when it became the Renaissance's epicenter. Today, this popular Tuscan city draws art lovers to gaze upon the brilliant works created by Donatello, Botticelli, Da Vinci, and Michelangelo. Meanwhile, history buffs revel while strolling on the same streets and bridges previously traversed by the powerful Medici family, as well as the masterminds of Galileo and Dante. I had visited Florence once before with my parents, but was unfortunately sick the entire time, so never got to enjoy the city. But with even those few encounters that I had, through what felt like an intimate village stuck in the Renaissance, I was in love with this city and really wanted to come back with Manny. So finally, he agreed. We traveled from JFK Airport to Milan on a new transcontinental flight called Neos Air, an Italian airline offering one flight to the city. The airline is an inexpensive airline offering premium tickets at an affordably low cost, and a flight that most have not heard of yet, so the plane was incredibly empty.
Welcome to Milan.
Since we arrived into Milan at 6:30 a.m., too early for any check-in, we decided to start our trip in Florence. So we took the high-speed rail for 2 hours to Florence.
Welcome to Florence.
We were staying at an Airbnb in the Piazza Della Signoria with an amazing view. Right in front was the Piazza Vecchio, the Loggia del Lonzi, a view of the Fountain of Neptune, and the statue of Cosimo de' Medici. Our location was great because the Uffizi Gallery was right next door and the Arno River with the Ponte Vecchio was only about a block and a half away. The city center of Florence is pedestrian, but you can get everywhere in just a short walk. We planned to stay in Florence for several days, and our plan was also to take some day trips. We went to Bologna. You can check out my vlog on their food market, only a 40-minute train ride, and one of the most incredible eating experiences that you could ever have. But for our first day in Florence, we were heading to something that I was really looking forward to, which was the Medici chapels in San Lorenzo Basilica. I have always had a fascination for the Medici family, so getting to see the resting place of the most important family in Florence, a mausoleum completely designed by Michelangelo, was exciting to me. To get into the Medici chapels, it is a separate ticket from visiting the Basilica. Prior to our visit, I had hoped to purchase the Florence card, which would allow us, with one purchase, into the majority of sites in Florence and was good for 3 days. But since COVID, it had stopped temporarily. So all of our passes I had to purchase individually, and in Florence, you do want to do that ahead of time because things will sell out. And sometimes locations are very specific with not only a date, but a time too. Inside the Medici chapels, there are 2 main rooms that you really want to see: the Chapel of the Princes and the Medici Crypt. Inside the crypt, you will find the tomb of Lorenzo the Magnificent. In addition, in this room, you will also find that it is one of the only completed constructions where you can see the work of Michelangelo as an architect, rather than just a painter or sculptor. When we were finished, right next to that, we walked through the San Lorenzo market, checking out all of the local touristy goods, and then hit up the upstairs of the Central Market, also known as the Mercato Central, to grab a bite to eat. You can check out my separate vlog on the Central Market and Ambrosio food markets in Florence, as well as my Florence food tour, Top Eats to Eat. They are great guides for what to look for in Florence. From there, we walked a bit more around the city, of course making our way over to the Ponte Vecchio. And yes, that bird really attacked our drone. And then back to the Piazza Della Signoria for a bite to eat, some people watching, and then Manny's first taste of gelato. By then we were tired from traveling all day, so we were good to call it a night. The next day, we started bright and early, hitting up the Piazza del Duomo with the Brunelleschi Pass. I have to say, it's so nice to be in the piazza before everything opens and all the craziness starts there. Our appointment was for 9 a.m., and Manny didn't want to climb to the dome of the Duomo, but I was super excited. So I'm waiting in line to go to the dome of the Duomo. So I'm really excited to get inside. Not so much to climb the stairs, but to get in there. So see you in a bit. I've done a separate vlog on the Brunelleschi Pass itself because to me, all of the history is mesmerizing. And there's just so much of it. Also, FYI, Brunelleschi was the name of the architect who designed the dome. Wow. So the Dome of the Duomo was the first dome to be built without a supporting structure. So it's actually one dome on top of the other. Sorry, out of breath after climbing all those stairs. Brunelleschi was the one who was commissioned by Cosimo Medici to go ahead and build it. And it took several years to do. In fact, once they started, there was actually an outbreak of a pandemic that happened, and they stopped on it before they went back and rebuilt it. But it's pretty amazing. The climb is 463 steps, and it's tight quarters. Definitely a good booty workout. I had watched twice on Netflix the show on the Medicis and the building of the dome, so that's a lot of why I was so excited to climb it and now get to see it for myself. So this is why you come up here. Amazing. So now we're at the top on the inside of the Duomo and walking around. So you can see it's right above me. It's literally impossible to get the entire thing in a picture or video, but it's pretty darn impressive. When I got down, Manny was sitting in prime real estate, outside in a cafe right in front of the Duomo having a cappuccino. I decided to join him, but I wanted one of those amazing looking Nutella croissants too. I was so excited about it that I forgot to capture it and just left behind a mess of powdered sugar, but here's what they look like. And just the FYI, the Italians do sweets for breakfast. So this was a traditional Italian breakfast. From there, the line of the baptistry wasn't too long, so we headed in there for a look. The Florence Baptistry, also known as the Baptistry of San Giovanni, is one of the oldest churches in Florence. The Florentines of the Middle Ages believed that the baptistry was an ancient building, dating back to the Roman period of the city, a pagan temple transformed into a church. It's covered with slabs of white and green Prato marble, and the gold mosaic dome is actually the largest in the world. So inside the baptistry right now, but people were able to come in here who weren't baptized, whereas in the Duomo back in the day, you weren't able to enter unless you were actually baptized. Pretty amazing though. After that, we went back to the Duomo and waited in line to go in. And by now, the piazza was just packed with people. Inside, we walked around for a bit and then went downstairs to yet another church, the ruins of the Santo Reparto. After a major archaeological dig beneath the Duomo from 1965 to 1973, it brought to light the remains of the old Basilica of Santa Reparta. And believe it or not, the remains of 4 ancient churches were found: the old Basilica and 3 rebuilds. And during the excavation campaign, one other thing was found: the tomb of Filippo Brunelleschi. My legs were still feeling like jello after my climb to the dome, so we skipped climbing the bell tower and headed over to the other side of the piazza to the last place on the pass, the Opera del Duomo Museum. The museum was founded in 1891 but radically renovated in 2015. The Opera del Duomo Museum is 6,000 square meters of surface and consists of 28 rooms on 3 floors, and found are the original preserved masterpieces of this famous piazza from such artists as Michelangelo, Donatello, Brunelleschi, Ghiberti, and countless others. It's pretty fantastic. On the ground floor is the exact spot where Filippo Brunelleschi had his headquarters, and also here was where Michelangelo carved the David. Today, the museum has over 750 works of art covering 720 years of history. You'll also find the 3 original baptistry's doors, the most famous one by Ghiberti, and known by Michelangelo as the Gate of Paradise. When we were finished there, we headed back over near our Airbnb to the Uffizi Gallery, where we had our next appointment. You aren't allowed to video in Uffizi. It is famous worldwide for its outstanding collections of ancient sculptures and paintings, mostly catering to the Renaissance area, but you'll find up to the modern period as well. After that, we went over the Ponte Vecchio and walked up the hill to see the Pitti Palace and Boboli Gardens. These tickets were also purchased in advance. Inside the palace, they don't allow video either. The palace was the last palace of the Medici family until the last male Medici heir died in 1737. And during the 19th century, Napoleon used it as a residence during his rule in Italy. Behind the palace is the Boboli Gardens, a historical part of the city of Florence that was opened to the public in 1766. Originally designed for the Medici, and it represents one of the first and most important examples of the Italian garden, which later served as inspiration for many European courts. The next day, we were up bright and early again to visit another market before heading to Bologna for the rest of the day. We went to the Mercato di Spirito on the other side of the Arno. I also have done a separate vlog regarding the markets that go on in this area as well. You should definitely take a look because it's a great area to visit. The following day, we decided to relax a bit instead of taking a day trip. So we did some shopping and then went over right off of the Arno River to the rooftop bar, Sisto, to have ourselves an aperitivo. If you don't know what an aperitivo is, then definitely check out my vlog, What is an Aperitivo? Now, it is an American hotel, so do expect American prices, but the view is everything. We tried not to get too full from eating and drinking because tonight, for dinner, we were going to try the famous bistecca al Fiorentina over at Osteria Filete d'Oro. This thickly cut, dry-aged Tuscan steak is the #1 Florence dish to eat for carnivores, with a healthy budget and a hearty appetite. It's not for everyone though. It's served on the bone and flame grilled with a charred outside and rare, or some would say raw, in the center. The meat itself comes from grass-fed white cows raised in Tuscany's hills, and it's just a simple preparation of salt, pepper, and fire. We also started our dinner with some amazing beef carpaccio with sprinkled truffles on top and a delicious bottle of local red wine. To finish the meal, we had some Italian cheesecake, which was so good. So light and so different from a New York-style cheesecake. For our last day in Florence, it was another early one. I walked over to check out the Mercato di Sant'Ambrogio. So it's like 7:30 in the morning and I am walking over to a market. It is the Sant'Ambrogio market. Now this is the market where most of the restaurants and people at home shop every day. So it opens at 7 a.m. We do have an appointment at 9 to go to the Vecchio Palace, so I do want to get back. But I'm excited to check out this market because this is supposed to be like the market. So we'll see what I find. As I said earlier, you can check out this vlog on food markets because they are definitely a sight to see. From there, I headed back to meet Manny, and we had an appointment at the Palazzo Vecchio, or the Vecchio Palace. Currently the town hall and the symbolic monument of the city, and for over 7 centuries, the seat of its government. There are many famous works and rooms to be seen inside, and additionally, it once served as the Palazzo di Cosimo de' Medici. Following that, Manny went to do some work, so I headed over to see the bottom floor of the Mercato Central. Then I visited the Basilica of Santa Maria Novella, a beautiful Gothic cathedral so important that the Florentines named their rail station after it. Following that, we had tickets for the Accademia, but Manny was too busy, so I headed over alone to go check out what it was most well known for, Michelangelo's David, as well as several of Michelangelo's unfinished pieces. I realized before going into the Accademia that across the street was a second location of the best sandwich shop in town. The other was near our Airbnb, but the line was always around the corner. I knew that there was no way that we could leave Florence without having one of their top paninis. So I picked one up and brought it back to our Airbnb. Right before sunset, we headed up to the Piazza Michelangelo, a piazzale that overlooks the entire city of Florence.
And it's just like seriously an amazing view up here. We actually took a taxi up because our feet are not so happy, but it's definitely worth it to come up here. It's just really, really nice. There's tons of people, as you can see. But, and just, it's a beautiful night tonight. So if you have the chance, come on up here.
It was a perfect night and a perfect sunset. To finish the evening, we stopped over at La Loggia del Piazzale Michelangelo for a drink and a small bite to eat. The perfect way to end our trip. Still so much to see in Florence, but that was it for that trip. Florence is definitely one of my favorite places in the world, and we will definitely be back. See you next time.